Just before you watch this review of Lucky Day, I do want to apologise in advance if the quality of this review looks slightly off. The camera I normally use is sadly, not sadly, but is died, so it needs to go on charge. So it's charging currently because I didn't know that. I thought it had enough battery in its life before. So, but I was using my backup camera, so I do apologise if the quality isn't as good. There's a saying in this industry called noise. So there might be some noise dotting around this video. And it's like, it looks grainy, it's like, it looks like a bit hissy. So if you see any of that, I do apologise. But without further ado, here is my review of Doctor Who Series 15, Episode 4, Lucky Day.
BBC Whoniverse.
Hello Whovians, and welcome to my review of Lucky Day. Yes, Lucky Day, the Doctor Light episode where the Doctor only appears in the episode twice. Yeah, twice. The beginning and at the end. This review contains spoilers, but because I'm so late with this review, because I've only just seen the episode today, Thursday, the 8th of May. So I am very behind on that. I do apologise. I have not been around. So let's talk about Lucky Day. First of all, let's talk about whether or not I liked Lucky Day as an episode. Well, overall, I did. I liked it. I do think there's areas it could improve on, but that's just because Doctor Light episodes have sort of got more errors in them due to the fact that Sarah Jane Adventures works real well because that's built on the Solo Companion. That's built on this. Lucky Day and all other Doctor Light episodes sort of have to try and prove why there's no Doctor in it, because it's not a spin-off. It's the Doctor episode itself. As a reintroduction to Ruby Sunday, I think it works really well, but it's not a very good continuation of the story arc, and it's a good reintroduction to Unit with Ruth Madeley back in the role. Well, she has always had the role. It's just she had to get rid of the job in the last series because she wasn't available. So I'm gutted that Lenny Rush is no longer in it at all, and she's back in that role. She always had that. They could have had a different scientific advisor. Lenny Rush could have just swapped characters slightly to be a different version of a scientific advisor. I'm slightly gutted that he's not in it, but overall, I think Conrad was a interesting character. I think the ending for Conrad was even more interesting. I think I don't know how to word it really, but I think the way that they've put him in prison, the way that Missy Flood's involved, I think that sort of works. And I think overall, it's hard to come up with words to think. So, elements of this episode, I'm going to structure this now. So, elements of this episode, I think, work on the grand scale of things in the past and the future. So, interacting with the last series, and interacting with the now series, and interacting with the future series. So, it's kept up to speed where Ruby Sunday's up to. So, mother, father, meeting them for the first time and all this. I think that I'm glad that the Redacted team weren't involved in the podcast, because the Redacted team were nothing like Conrad. They were a lot more believing than Conrad, so I'm glad that they weren't there. because that was in my prediction that I thought that might have happened. I think having Ruby's mum, her birth mum, in it, living with her I think she's adopted. She might be. I think that's the right word. I'm always unsure. I've seen the Dumping Ground and Train Speaker Return and the Surrey Train Speaker for years, but I've never got to grips with whether or not adopted means you then look after the child and under your jurisdiction. If anyone knows the correct answer, do let me know down below. But what I think that Lucky Day does that other Doctor Light episodes might have not done was, I think it hasn't done what 73 Yards did, right? 73 Yards was brilliant, and the extended novelisation version apparently has Ace in it. I need to investigate that. But I think Lucky Day is sort of... It's all about Ruby, and that's what we need. Because we knew she was going to be in this series, we just needed her to be reintroduced at this point. So hopefully, at some point or another, she joins the TARDIS team. Because at no point did Belinda or Ruby meet each other, which is gutting in my opinion. And I would have liked them to at least had a scene together. But I'm glad that the Doctor got to meet Comrade. I am glad that... I'm just glad that the elements of the Doctor being in it kept there. What I didn't like, personally, was Comrade himself. I don't think Comrade was a nice character. I think he was interesting story-wise, but I don't think that... I'm gutted that he's coming back, because I wasn't 200% sure with him. I think the Joel Dominick's cameo of him presenting the Masked Singer and making a reference to it's slightly odd. I think his cameo on the One Show was slightly odd. I'm just thinking that sequence of Alex Jones being in it and him giving him this platform was slightly odd. Now, we all have to talk about the elephant in the room. The best bit of the segment where cameos were galore is Trinity Wells. Welcome back, Trinity Wells. I never remember her name. I always think American Broadcaster. I never remember it. And I don't know her name either. I now know Trinity Wells' name because I'm never going to forget that. But when they cut to the BBC, for a good while, there was always this woman, and she's in Lucky Day, and I can't think of her name. And it really drove me around the bend. But I am confused why Trinity Wells keeps popping up, because when she ever turns up, it's never from an American point of view in the realms of where she's been since Russell RTD2. So her appearing in this without an American context, as in, oh, the White House, blah, 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 or in New York, blah, 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 one of them. It just felt odd, but I was glad she was there. I'm glad she had a massive cameo in this, right? Probably more than a cameo, it's an appearance. So hopefully, she's back again. I think the other element that I quite liked was that... Well, no, the element that really confused me is how the Doctor managed to get to Earth in 2007. That's the thing that not understood me, is how is that possible? It was struggling to get to 2025, but and I thought it was having issues getting to Earth itself, so I'm not too sure what actually happened there, and hopefully we get some explanation, and I'm hoping, as a whole, that Doctor Unleashed sort of explains some of these points that I don't get. I know that I know that we had 3 cameos from the Doctor. Sorry, I forgot about the third bit when she was when they did a flashback sort of scene that wasn't really in the last series, but was trying to demonstrate it was a year ago. And I quite liked how they mentioned that it was a year ago. So Ruby being in it is a massive positive because Ruby's really good at. Well, it's Millie Gibson. I'm just gonna outright say this. Millie Gibson's really good at portraying characters in Doctor Who. Obviously, Ruby is amazing, but on a solo mission. So, what I want and what I won't get is I want Ruby Sunday to appear in the new unit spin-off, The Land Between the Sea. I think that's what it's called. I want that to happen because I think Ruby works really well on her own, and every time she's been on her own, she's interacted with unit in some way or other, and I think that worked really well. I quite liked how the public consciousness knew of the Brigadier, and I liked how we made our second ever reference to Nicholas Courtney's character. So the reason why I say second ever is because the first time the reference was he's now a Cyberman because he's been resurrected from the dead as a Cyberman, and he knows that is what he wants, and he gets fired off. But you don't need Nicholas Courtney there to do that. The other nod we had to when Nicholas Courtney suddenly passed away, we made sure that we killed the character off in the World of Doctor Who so that we didn't have to recast and we didn't have any of those issues. So I think having this nod to the Brigadier worked really well because obviously Kate Lethbridge Stewart is the new Who equivalent of the Brigadier. I think this version of Unit are gearing up for the spin-off, so I think that's what we got, really. We got who was going to be in the spin-off, what they like now, and how we're going to interact with them. So I think that's what worked really well to have Ruby in Unit. I'm confused why Rose wasn't there. Donna's daughter. I'm confused why that wasn't portrayed. I think it might have been down to the point that she probably doesn't work there full time, right? She's probably a part-time worker, like I'm assuming it's the same with Lenny Rush, right? And I'm not saying that's an issue, and I know that Lenny Rush is becoming a really, really successful actor, so he's becoming busier and busier, like Rose Madeley. So I think we might get another scientific either at some point. The unit as a whole were the secondary B plot side character in this, and I think that's what's really handy about them. I wonder where Mel was as well. That's another question for another day, not for now. And I think that them not being central to the story but having enough impact in it to help meant that we could see that Ruby can interact. Ruby can do things on her own, and she's capable. And I don't know. I know this is probably a cliche or oversaid, but I think that when you see a character, right, in the World of Doctor Who, a companion, and they leave the TARDIS, what I personally quite like is when we come back to them, because not only do we see what they're up to now, but most of the time they're in alien force things, like Martha Jones joining Unit, having a stint with Torchwood for an episode, and I think that apart from Donna, because she had her mind wiped, and Rose being a parallel universe, Rose Tyler being a parallel universe, but I think that these characters enjoy the time with the Doctor, but then learn a sense of individuality, learn the sense of I am who I am, but this is who I can be, and this is what I can do. I might not be with the Doctor anymore, but I can put my stamp on the world. And I think that's what Ruby does here. She puts her stamp on the world. 73 Yards was not like this, because 73 Yards, Ruby hadn't had this experience. Ruby wasn't who she is now, and I think that Pete McTighe, if I pronounced that correctly, if I haven't, I do apologize, who wrote Lucky Day, has sort of gone, who is Ruby Sunday now? Not who she was, but who is she now? Who would she be when she's got everything she wants with her family and is faced against something that she's uncontrolled with? And I think that's what makes this so powerful and so much more than just your average Doctor Who story episode. Overall, just to round us off and to get to the significant elements, overall, on reflection, I think it wasn't a wow that the well that Lux and what Belinda Chandler's opening episode was. I don't think Revolution. I don't think this is in the wow, what on earth have I just seen? It's in the realms of, and I know we said this 73 Yards and other Doctor Light episodes from the last series. I think it's what happens if American Horror Story, Chelsea Unexpected, Twilight Zone, Black Mirror, and Inside Number 9 had a baby. This is what would be produced. I think that it deserves praise. It deserves love. And it deserves everything it's going to get. I personally think that the novelisation could go in a way darker tone than this episode. So I'm curious to see how they go about doing the novelisation for this, but as a whole, I hope this is the last Doctor Light episode for a while, because I don't mind Doctor Light episodes, but I just think at the moment they're too frequent. We couldn't help it with Series 14 due to shooting at with filming his Netflix show and the last series of it. So I think that the Doctor Lightness of it is slightly disappointing, but overall, it is a cracking episode. I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. I'm gonna say that was a cracking episode, and no one can take that away from us. No one can take that away from a Doctor Who fan going, that was awful. You're allowed that opinion. You're allowed opinions like, it's terrible. Because that's how opinions work. You've got opinions of, that's terrible. Opinions of, that was alright. Opinion of, meh. And opinion of, that's brilliant. But I think that was great. I think that was okay. It was good. It was brilliant. It wasn't as wow that the others were, but it's a good way to reintroduce Unit and Ruby Sunday to an audience, because I think that having a new companion from day dot in this new series 15, you then will get new fans, right? That's guaranteed. You'll get new people because they might stumble across it, and it's Belinda's first time in the TARDIS, and it'll be your first time watching the show. So having this episode where we reintroduce characters from the last series to keep people up to speed with what's going on with her story arc so that we can finish it off at the end works really well. I'm gutted that she's not in it, might not be in it anymore. I was hoping that she would then join the TARDIS team and then come back, but I'm glad that we've got Ruby in this series, and it works so well for her. It's the type of thing she deserves, and I think that Millie Gibson as an actor thrives in this situation. This is her happy zone. This is her zone of, yes, it might not be with the Doctor, she might not get to be with Ncuti per se, but at least she's got everything she wants now. And I think, personally, I do think this is one of... I think 72 Yards is a better Doctor Who episode, but I think this is up there in the top 10. This being number 2. If 10 was the worst and 1 was the best, 2 was second best, I think this would be the second best Lucky Day, and I think 73 Yards would be the best. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. I didn't like Conrad as a character, but I think the purpose of him being there was really good. So I might not like his scenes, I might not like his interaction with the story, but you have to work out from a writer's point of view, their purpose for being there, it was good. And that's what you want in Doctor. You need to make sure everyone knows their purpose. You might not like a character, but you might need to know about their purpose. So, there we have it. That was my review of Lucky Day. I'll be back for more reviews, news, sitcoms, sketch shows, dramas, you name it, who knows, it'll be back. Do apologise about the quality, like I said at the beginning. Thank you guys for watching. Tom on Tomat. Bye-bye.
Don't forget to subscribe to the official Tom Mason YouTube channel